Hi, good morning, good evening. Welcome to the EMBA session on digital transformation. My name is Nitin Agarwal. I will be your moderator and the panelist in the today's session. It is my great privilege to introduce to you the rest of the panel, a fantastic mix of industry and academic experts. We have some interesting insights lined up for you. The session is set up like this. We'll have a short introduction right now, followed by 5 to 7 minutes of presentation from each panelist. And right after that, we will have breakout rooms for discussion on topics that the panelists were asked to come up with. And in the discussion, in the breakout room, we will appoint a reporter whose responsibility will be to summarize the entire session and come back and report it. Allow me to introduce the panel today. We have Heiko Seif. He's the Vice Dean of Research at Munich Business School. Welcome, Heiko. Andrea Pia. He's the consultant involved in digital transformation since the year 2000s, since early 2000s. He's the Vice President, Client Services of AKQA and an adjunct professor in Bologna Business School. Welcome, Andrea. Herb, he's the Senior Vice President of Digital Business and Strategies for Sony Music Entertainment in Latin Iberia region. Welcome, Herb. And Rafael Estrada, he's the Manager of Information Systems, Telecommunications and Process Control, Antamina Mining Company in Peru. Welcome, Rafael. And I, of course, am Nitin Agarwal. I'm a professor at San Jose State University, and I'll be a moderator. So I'm going to invite, next slide, please. Uh, Next slide. I'm going to invite Professor Heiko Seif. He'll be presenting on 60, the 6 basic principles of digital business, according to Peter Diamandis.
Nitan. It's a pleasure for me to be here today and to talk to you about digital transformation. Yes, we are in an interesting situation at the moment that is comparable to the Cambrian explosion, which is around 540 million years ago, where we had a sudden incident where only within 10 million years, almost all the species that we know nowadays came on Earth and developed on Earth. And all what followed after this 10 million years was somehow a biological phenomenon of diversity in biology. That means the species and the types of biological systems evolved only within 10 million years. And when we compare it to the digital situation nowadays, within the last 10 to 15 years, we had almost the same explosion in digital business via the network effect. And after this, coming artificial intelligence and other things. It starts with one principle here in digital transformation. If you show the next slide, please, of the things that will be happening. And we see already that lots of things are digitized. They fade from a physical world into a digital world, into a virtual world, starting with photographies, with pictures, with music, with DNA, and all those elements that will be that can be digitized will be digitized in the future. So there are some leading questions to discuss. So one question, the most important here, is how does digitization affect your business environment, and what kind of elements can be digitized? Next slide, please. Then we have the deception and the whole development is deceptive. That means at the beginning, you don't recognize a strong growth. It's somehow a latent, hidden growth, and suddenly it starts growing faster. So one question here is very important. Are there first appearances or occurrences that you discover, first digital steps, small steps that suddenly will grow faster? This is deception here. The next slide, please. Then we have the next D, the third D of disruption. So if you cross a certain inflection point, when you compare it with a linear growth rate, the digital growth rate is an exponential one. That means if you have an inflection point and you cross this point, the growth rate suddenly starts to become bigger and grow faster. This is a certain phenomenon of disruption. And here the next question would be, do you already see such developments in your business environment where suddenly growth rates start to get bigger and bigger compared to linear growth? Next slide, please. Then we have the demonetization. That means elements like software or others, digitized stuff, is almost available for the marginal costs of going towards zero. That means you have a demonetization effect. Freemium models appear. And these are questions that you can ask yourself. Are there any freemium models to attract customers? And later on, you are able to monetize it in a later stage. The entrance is demonetization, and later on, the monetization comes. The next D, so next slide, is about dematerialization. That means hardware and functions that you know from hardware will be dematerialized. In the logistics chain, for instance, you can avoid logistics costs when you don't, when you apply dematerialization. That means you only transfer the information how to produce something instead of sending out a physical object to the receiver. That means, for instance, you do D3 printing close to your market instead of producing the products at a central point, at a plant, for instance, and distributed it, these kind of objects later on at high logistic costs. So this is dematerialization. And the last one is then, next slide, please, the democratization. That means each and everyone, and even the top, the bottom of the pyramid is available or has the availability to get access to products, to services that are digitized. So democratization means each and every person on the planet has access to it. So these have been my 6Ds, now, according to Peter Diamandis. And we see this in our business environment in different industries, across all industries. And thank you very much for your attention here. And let's talk about these questions, the leading questions, later in the breakout room. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me? Thank you. Hello, everybody. This is my pleasure to be with you. So now I would like to share some experiences and lessons learned about some digital transformation projects, and I expect to be useful for you. So first of all, we need to keep in mind what a successful digital transformation project means. So first of all, it will include a change in an internal process, in the user experience, or maybe on the business model. But it will also should result in some improvements. improve results or the organization results. And it also includes a component of technology on it. The full potential of a digital transformation project will be achieved only when the maximum potential of the involvement of people is also achieved. Next slide, please. So now I would like to share with you six critical success factors for digital transformation journeys. First of all, the change management. And why is that important? Because as you may know, um, a digital transformation is more of a cultural transformation effort. So we need to focus on the cultural aspect, on the ownership, and we need to develop this ownership with people working with a strong communication, co-creation, and involvement. The idea is that you will need to have the maximum involvement and ownership of the people. And you may keep in mind the idea of the IKEA effect. As long as people is involved on a journey, they will develop ownership of the project. And also storytelling. And why storytelling is important? Because, in our organization, we have many different challenges and projects. So how do we gain approval, attention, and involvement for our project? One good option is to share a compelling history about our project. Next slide, please. It is also important to keep in mind some technological um, architectural requirements. As long as we use more technology in our projects, we also need to keep in mind the cybersecurity aspect of this technology. We need to protect our infrastructure, our users' information, the data. So we need to be very careful, and we also need to include some guidelines like ISO 27000 to protect personal information, relevant information, but also to protect the services that we are providing to our customers or to our company. The other component, the ecosystems, is, is an invitation to use open innovation uh, frameworks to accelerate the development of new solutions for our company, working with ecosystems, with the academia, working with innovators, with startups. That could be a very strong option to develop interesting solutions for our internal challenges. Next slide, please. And it is also important to keep in mind an architectural, let's say, a technological architectural framework, because we want to build solutions that will last for a long time. If you keep in mind an architectural framework, you will create these solutions using a model that will allow you to guarantee the sustainability of these solutions. And the final idea here that I want to share with you is value creation. So you need to remember what value creation means for your organization. It could be financial value, it could be social impact, it could be environmental performance, or whatever is important for your organization. You need to focus on that. What means value creation for your organization? And you need to deliver this value through the digital transformation project. So those are the key ideas I want to share with you. I would expect those are valuable and useful for you. Thank you, Nitin.
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. To move into the conversation, I want to start with some facts. Next chart, next slide, please. Some facts that we can read on a recent research of ISTAT, the Italian National Institution for Statistics. If you look at the numbers coming from European Union, we can say that in Italy, there was a strong acceleration in investments in digital transformation. Most of the companies use the contributions coming from the government to adopt ultra broadband connectivity and cloud infrastructure. To be honest, this trend was present even before the pandemic. We should definitely happy and proud to have reduced as Italians our gap with the other European countries. But even if we made big progress from a connectivity and infrastructural point of view, we didn't see the same improvement from a cultural and a strategic standpoint. In fact, the research shows that there is a lack of adoption of technologies that are related to change and to improve decision-making processes. I'm talking, for example, about investments in big data, in CRM, in ERP, and more in general, in digital competencies and modern skills, specifically inside the C-suite and in boards of the companies. This fact explains why Italian companies are still struggling to reinvent their businesses and disrupt their sectors. In summary, we can state that they did just a technological upgrade of their operating model, but the main driver was the contribution coming from the government and not a strategic business vision. Next chart, please. This lack of vision moved Riccardo Silvi, a friend, a colleague at Bologna Business School, and my co-director of the International Executive MBA, and me, to create something meaningful and helpful, specifically for mid-sized companies. Something that should support a full comprehension of the value and the impact of digital transformation. We created the Digital Transformation Canvas, a tool that supports executives and entrepreneurs to strategically reposition their business in today's digital economy. A canvas, more in general, is basically a narrative tool, and it is beneficial for creating a common and shared point of view about a topic. For example, in this case, digital transformation. The objective is to align the board and more in general key stakeholders about the impact of a digital transformation journey. Creating a common, integrated, and shared view supports decision-making across silos that still today represent the main barrier to transformation. The canvas contributes to the creation of a 360-degree view of the transformation journey through the definition of internal digital assets, the definition of a strategic business goal or strategic business goals, if more than one, and a modern and up-to-date and tailored performance management system that should be consistent with the business goals and the operating model of a company. The Canvas is an actionable tool that helps key decision makers understanding their company's maturity and prioritize realistic digital actions. Just to make an example, understanding if your company is ready and mature to create a new business, or if at a specific moment fine-tuning or mining innovations of the current business model is the best you can achieve, is key to maximize the probability of success. Next chart, please. Thank you. In this chart, you can see the integrated view of the digital transformation canvas. I have no time to describe each detail. I only want to highlight the sequence that can be used at the initial stage as an assessment tool and later on as a progress updating tool to monitor how the transformation journey is moving on. You can go in the last chart. We will have the opportunity in the breakout room to discuss about these questions that are really critical for the success of your transformation journey. The first question would be about the type of transformation that you expect to do or that you aim to do. Then what are the main barriers, especially in small, medium enterprises? What are the main enablers and how we can manage complexity in small and medium-sized enterprises? Thank you, and I hope to see all of you or part of you in our breakout rooms. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. The music entertainment industry was devastated by digital disruption about 18, 20 years ago, and we struggle to efficiently be able to manage an effective digital transformation. We thought a digital transformation was about technology. We thought that digital transformation was a destination. You know, how do we get from A to B? And we learned along the way that digital transformation is changing the way you do your business from a business model standpoint, and some of the other great attributes that my colleagues have highlighted in previous slides. I'd like to go over, I manage the US Hispanic market, the Latin American market, and Spain and Portugal. And I'd like to go over what's the status of the Latin America digital transformation landscape as an example that that could be similar in other regions of the world. First and foremost, the landscape is perceived digital transformation as being able to do digital marketing campaign. I have a web presence, I have an app, and immediately we think we're digital. And what we're seeing and we're discussing here today, that being a digital company requires a lot more than that. Being a digital company is changing your business model, is capturing data, sharing data, and really creating value for your customers and your business partners. We also see in the Latin America region the lack of transformative initiatives, in the sense of having the ability to invest in artificial intelligence, machine learning, the creation of APIs, the creation of platforms, and that seriously hinders the ability for the region to grow in the digital economy space. We also see a digital limited infrastructure, and if you look at the Latin America region, you can see that there's tremendous mobile penetration, but when it comes to cloud services, the utilization of cloud services, when it comes to internet utilization for business purposes, then we see a lot more limited penetration compared to other regions of the world. We'll also see limited venture capital investments, specifically in the area of technology and the digital economy. And lastly, we still have a region that, from a business model standpoint, when we look at the numbers and we look at the models to invest in digital, it's a region that still has a labor force that is relatively inexpensive to other regions of the world. And sometimes when we make the models to invest in technology, either the NPVs or the IRR models do not reflect the proper ROI, and that limits a lot of the investments. Next slide. Some of the challenges in the region, I talked about, the investments in digital technology. There's a misconception many times that the digital economy is all about B2C activity. We many times talk about Uber and Airbnb and some of these other B2C business models, but it's tremendous opportunity in the B2B business sector to utilize data and to capture data. Whoever wins the data battle in the digital economy is going to dominate the economy, and we've seen that already with some of the major players that are dominating this economy, right? We also see lack of transformative initiatives. It's really difficult to move forward when companies are still finding value and generating profitability in today's business model versus a future business model in digital. And the region also has challenges in terms of cybersecurity risk. I know Rafael mentioned that in his presentation, and that kind of generates a mistrust in the region on the utilization of technology to be able to share valuable information. So overall, there's a tremendous misconception in the region of what digital transformation means. It is not a technology exercise. Not only you have to be able, yes, you have to be able to scale your technology, but you also have to be able to scale your organizational structure, your culture, and the way you do business. So it's a total different mindset that we had to learn, and we made a lot of mistakes along the way. But it really encompasses your overall value chain and operation. Next slide. So in the breakout room, we're going to talk about the difference between having a digital value chain, which a lot of companies concentrate on, and really having a digital platform. And what does that mean in terms of your structure and operation? And we'll also talk about what does it mean to have an agile team, and what are some of the requirements in terms of attributes as an executive to be a successful executive in the digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, so much. That was a great session so far. I will be talking about COVID-induced or COVID-accelerated digital transformation. I will cover 3 different topics: where we were pre-COVID, what happened, and where we are headed towards. Next slide, please. So pre-COVID, I mean, the seeds of digital transformation, as you've heard from all the other speakers, were already sown. It's not like something, it just started magically, right? So seeds were sown, but the expectations were that it'll happen in next 5 to 10 years to 15 years, and it'll be a slow and a gradual process. Initially, it looked more like digitization, and which gave way to digitalization, and then now the digital transformation. One reason why it was not so prominent in all the companies was one is lack of will from the leadership. And lack of will overall, and it's not just the lack of will. It's part of it is also that there were other ongoing priorities which took precedence over digital transformation. There were existing businesses, cash cows, and leadership didn't want to cannibalize that part of the business to just go for digital transformation, right? Then fear of resistance. I mean, humans by nature are resistant to change, and like Rafael mentioned, that change is one of the critical factors in any digital transformation. So fear of resistance to major changes. Thus, majority of the digital transformation efforts that were going on were more incremental in nature, one step at a time. Next slide, please. And then COVID happened, right? COVID is as unfortunate as it is one of the largest social experiment that is going on in the world, which has reset just about everything that we can imagine. I mean, out of all things, US is facing a severe shortage of boba drinks. So you can imagine if boba industry is impacted, you can imagine just how the chip industry is doing, right? So every sector and every industry in the world has been impacted. It's just a massive reset button that was set for the entire world. But that also gave a downtime to all the businesses to rethink and re-engineer, just improving, to do a business process re-engineering instead of following the Kaizen principles. It also reset the expectations right? There were no protests. If somebody was fired, there was no expectation that people will get raises. There was no. It was just a basic resetting of entire expectation, and also allowed companies to eliminate bad processes, eliminate dead weight, eliminate the baggage that had built up over the years, right? Uh, Another very big thing, like change, is critical. Change was expected. Everybody somehow had the mindset that okay, something major has to change, and we cannot protest and we cannot do. Everybody was open to the idea of learning something new, right? Then another major catalyst that COVID provided was the worldwide government stimulus. If you look at the graph on the right, you'll notice that just about every country gave a stimulus, which was the percentage of their GDP. In other words, massive amount of money was injected into the economy, which provided a fertile ground for digital transformation and new type of technologies to take roots. While most things were offline, tech was online. And it gave a fair chance to emerging technologies. That is evident from all the IPOs that came out last year of all new and innovative technologies like NFTs, batteries, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, stock market did very well, which provided the financing to all these new technologies. Next slide, please. All right, so where are we headed? Post-COVID digital transformation. I think the entire digital transformation industry environment has shrunk from 5 to 10 years to 2 years, 3 years. And as you can see from the graphs below, that is pre-COVID and post-COVID, digital transformation of customer interaction, digital characteristics of product, everything has taken a giant leap. There's an impact. There will be a huge impact on small and medium business services also in terms of globalization. I give an example that before COVID, a majority of the parents who their kids had to go to classes would go to local classes and regional classes. We have a very popular Russian school of math over here, taught by most Asians. Now you can actually go to Russian school of math being taught by a Russian who is an expert in that area, and that can be done online at a fraction of a cost, right? So those kind of things will affect the small and medium businesses over here, especially the service industry. More impact has been seen in the service industry than manufacturing. These changes will be long-term and permanent. And as Professor Anil Gupta from University of Maryland says, there'll be more flow of information across the borders and less flow of goods, right? So we will see companies setting up local factories, and the transfer will happen in terms of data rather than goods. Last slide, please. So here are some of the questions that I'll be talking about in our breakout room. Any downside of digital transformation? How is the digital divide post-COVID? Technology haves and have-nots. And how will it impact the human resources and labor? That's all I have for today. I think we are headed to breakout rooms. If you have questions, please post the questions in the live Q&A session, and we'll be taking some questions after the breakout room. If you click on these, you should have a small icon at the bottom of your screen which says breakout rooms. If you click on that icon, you should be able to see breakout rooms. Each panelist has their own breakout room. So depending upon your interest and what you saw, you should be
I'm not seeing my room. I'm Andrea. It's not in the list. Yes, that's fine, but it's not yet in the list, it seems to me. No worry. Yes, but I'm not seeing in the list number 3. You're right, sorry. I got it. Sorry.
Emma, can you hear me now? Okay, thank you.
Okay, everybody, we're going to wrap up the breakout room shortly and return to the main stage in about 4 minutes' time. Thank you. Okay, everybody, we're going to go back to the main stage. And if I could ask the following people, that's Wesley Brandao, Luis Castro, Anditi Pandey, and Stefano Calzi, to raise their hand with a little green symbol at the bottom right of their view screen. They will then get an invitation to join the green room and come on stage. So if everybody now could make their way back to the main auditorium. Thank you. And it's over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you, Nitin, can you go?
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We had a very healthy and an interesting discussion that went along in these sessions. Now I'll invite the individual breakout rooms and reporters from those breakout rooms to come summarize whatever was discussed or whatever conclusion they came up with. Let's see. Do we have the list of breakout rooms? Okay. How about Rafael, critical success factors?
Yes, Nitin, we have Josley Brandao, who may share the key ideas.
Hello, everyone. So, first of all, good morning, good evening. I was in breakout session with Professor Nitin Agrawal, and we kind of touched three basic topics. And in there, first of all, we talked about how the impact has been, or what is that is we are lacking with digital digitization or digital transformation. The second key aspect we talked about was how is the digital divide looking post-COVID, and the third one that we spoke about was how this has impacted the human resources and labor. So the downsides of digital transformation that we keenly focused upon were that has to be a physical presence necessary because it creates more impact. Also, we have seen that there is some lack of trust when it comes to digital technology. People are not that much keen to go online because they are not so sure with their data going online, and they have some security issues. Again, there comes a lack of inclusivity in the emerging markets because there is lack of infrastructure and culture. There is because it is not something regional, but it is going to be global. Also, cultural shock is there in some unadvanced companies because of the digital transformation. And for some companies, there is this pace of digital transformation is too much, so it doesn't add that much value to them. So these are some of the downsides of the digital transformation that we came up. Now, how the digital divide is looking post-COVID is that because of some industries that have heavily paid for the COVID crisis, especially the manufacturing industries and the tourism and hospitality. Because these industries require the physical presence of the employees or of the tourists. This is something, this experience cannot be taken virtually. And hence this has led to a high number of unemployment and high unemployment rate in these industries. Also, there has been ununiform divide in terms of profits and benefits when it came to the private sector. What we thought that one solution could be an innovation-led tourism and hospitality management to reduce this digital divide post-COVID crisis. Now, we also talked about how it has impacted the human resources and labor. So we definitely believe that there has been a lack of labor and human resources because of COVID-19 impact. Until the workforce is entirely vaccinated, we can still not believe that more people will be coming to work physically. And this is also the case of thinking from the perspective of employee well-being. Also, we see that the education system needs to be evolved to generate a skilled workforce, because now we are not hiring locally, we are growing global. And because of the impact of the COVID crisis, the onboarding process has also become quite tough, because you are not able to meet the the participant in person, and just to get them know face to face. So the onboarding process and just the hiring process in itself has become so much complicated. So this has also lent to reduced labor and reduced human resources. So these were some of the key points that we talked about.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm reporting the group led by Andrea Pia. So we discussed briefly about digitalization and digital innovation. And to summarize the discussion is that I would say digitalization, it doesn't depend from the size of the company where you are, because we had a good example of also small business, small company that effectively digitalized their business, while maybe bigger companies sometimes struggle more. But also we had a discussion that typically in company digital tools are present in a very spread way, but sometimes what is missing is let me say a complete review of the business model to enable digitalization. And this is I think one of the most I think that also it's quite common in the Italian business as well. What else? So we discussed. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So I'm representing the group that was from Rafael Estrada, and we discussed about what the critical impacts of digital transformation and what are the main barriers or constraints that companies and also all the stakeholders might face when implementing a digital program in their companies. And I think that I agree with the former colleague that this, regardless the size of the company, all face some challenges. And we spotted some of 8 main issues that we could and challenge. I would like just to highlight 3 of them. One, the first is upskilling of the employees and the labor force that have in the company. I think this is really important, and this should follow throughout the whole transformation program, and not only at the end. This is really important. We should prepare. Companies should start to prepare their people on the ground, but also in the middle and senior management, on the line management, and also the regular employees to be able to shift their activities to a more critical and a more impact-driven into the company. And they would be able to use the digital tools that will be available after the transformation program. But at the same time, they would be able to already prevent or already convene all the new tools that will be available for them, and participate on that, and also improve their productivity. And this is really important because you'd also foster a mindset that sometimes is the people get skeptical or backlash the new digital tools, because they believe this will replace them, when indeed actually they would upskill and make them work better and efficiently. Another point was about management change. I think this change management and leadership in a digital transformation environment is really important. This has a lot to do with the previous topic about upskilling, but this is also about the mentality and the willingness that that top management has to do. It has to be open enough, and in order to embrace the digitalization and that operations, and also understand that yes, there are a lot of the bottom line will be heated, and it'll be really beneficial for for their sales and also for their operating profit or whatever. But that also for the employee side now with COVID showing up that it's possible for that team to work remotely, can be in a hybrid mode, but okay, thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, I got dropped. So we have just enough time for a few question and answers from the audiences. If you have any questions, please post them in the live Q&A session, and we'll take them up. Any volunteers? I can go. Digital transformation is, of course, something, it's not a fad anymore. Most leaders that I've spoken to in the industry in Silicon Valley, they are very excited about digital transformation. Every presentation that I've seen them make talks about digital transformation strategy in their own company. And the digital transformation requires a fundamentally different way of thinking. For example, one that talk about is democratizing data. In other words, getting everybody access to the data from the junior level employees all the way to the senior level employees. Every data should be accessible by just about everyone, because data is what will derive decision making. And if your employees don't have access to the data, then it will be problematic, right? So that is what is going on in terms of digital transformation, at least here in the US. Any general thoughts?
I agree as well. I think that data gives the ability to provide personalization in terms of a consumer offering, and machine learning and AI are fed through data. The machine learning models need data to be able to be effective, and the more data you have, the more effective those findings and those insights are going to be. So I couldn't agree more that it's all data driven, and the ability to have a different business model from the traditional business.
All right, thank you. We have one question actually from Akiko Yamashita for Professor Heiko. Could you once again talk about combination of digital transformation with physical products?
Okay. Yeah, so the starting point of bundling products with digital services is the basis, therefore, is connectivity of the products and a channel to interact with your customer that uses your product. On the one hand, you can interact with your customer and upgrade and upsell, for instance, on your product with upgrades, with new features, with additional services that are software-based to your physical product. And you have to have a connectivity to your product in order to bring new software, new features to your product. And this enables you a complete new business model. At the end, it's not only about selling a product. You can hand it out for free, for instance, and making the money only with updates, upgrades, upselling, and all around that. And you skip out players, intermediates that want to earn money, for instance, wholesalers or brick and mortar stores and so on. So get direct access to your consumers or to your customers. So the question about this is then B2D, that means business to direct sales.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we have enough time for one more question, or is this the end of the session? All right. All right. Thank you so much. A great round of applause for all our panelists. They've done a great job holding breakout sessions and talking about digital transformation. Thank you so much for attending our session. Hope to see you again in another session over here.
Thanks for this great opportunity. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.